Diving into your next act or wondering what's ahead? Enjoy life as you change your path and embrace your authentic self.
Join me as we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of making big changes in your life. New directions both personally and professionally. Shake things up. But don't worry, you are not alone. On each episode, we'll be sharing stories, providing valuable information, and introducing you to others navigating their next act. So let's get inspired.
This is a Candy Factory Convo, Life in the Next Act with Gail Shane.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Life in the Next Act. Today, we are talking with Dr. John Gerdy, author, musician, artist, former professional athlete, stay-at-home parent, founder, and executive director of Music for Everyone. John will be discussing nonprofit entrepreneurship and how the opportunity has never been greater than today. He will discuss how to inspire others to help build the foundation. John will share his passion for Music for Everyone, a nonprofit dedicated to cultivating the power of music as an educational and community building tool to transform lives, schools, and communities in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Hello, John, and welcome.
Good to be here, Gail. Great to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
You.
Okay.
You're so welcome.
Okay.
John, take us on your journey from the early days in basketball to becoming the founder and executive director of Music for Everyone that was formed 16 years ago.
Right. Well, it has been a journey. I had a basketball career. I played, college had All-American college basketball player at Davidson College, and actually I held a scoring record at Davidson College, career scoring record for 30 years until some dude named Steph Curry came and broke it. But I played a little professionally, and then I went back. My passion's always been education. I went back to school, got my master's in sports administration, PhD in higher education, spent 10 years in higher education and sort of the college athletic side, 3 years at the NCAA, 6 years as associate commissioner of the Southeastern Conference for compliance and academic affairs, which was an interesting stay. And then, we had our first child, and I took that as an opportunity to step away from college athletics and be a stay-at-home parent. And, second child, and, soon enough, after 8-10 years or so, they don't need dad around as much anymore. So I had an opportunity there again to reinvent myself. Could have gone back into college athletics, because I've been there, done that. Been a lifelong musician, and just started doing the research. As an educator too, doing research about how music programs are being cut across the board. And at the same time, there's all this research coming out. I mean, there's new studies coming out every day about the educational value of, immersion in music, music's reading, music's math, music's logic, music's, language. And you have all these studies about how valuable it is as an educational tool. And at the same time, it's being cut. So it didn't make any sense to me. So got together some friends, got a team together, and basically said, let's try to do something. Started out with a little fundraiser. We made, $10,000, and we gave a bunch of instruments to School District of Lancaster. And now, almost $3 million of investment later. So it's kind of like, be careful what you ask for, one of those sort of things.
Well, let me take you back to when you identified the need, which you just explained a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You identified it for Lancaster, Pennsylvania,
mm-hmm.
and you did a lot of research. And specifically, why was it in your heart?
Well, at my heart, my two life passions are education and providing access to education and using the educational process as a tool. Sports is a tool to supplement the educational process, and music is as well in a very similar way. They're tools to supplement the educational process. And so education has always been my passion. My father was a high school teacher. My mother worked in the school district. My sister's a teacher. And my other passion is community service, because that was always really, really emphasized in our home growing up. So this was something to kind of combination of both. And but people say, well, college athletics to music, how's it? Really, it wasn't different at all, really, because to me, it's all about education. And they're each tools, and it's how they're not necessarily good or bad one way or the other, but it's how you apply them in terms of their ability to achieve positive educational outcomes. And
you mentioned be careful what you ask for. Yeah. So you jumped in, be careful what you ask for. Were you surprised?
Yeah, but in looking back at it, it's been 16 years now. We've done it, it's evolved. The organization's evolved in so many ways, and we're doing so many more things now than we ever did in all kinds of different ways, which is something that we can talk about. But it's really more of a testament to the generosity of our community. So many people have, stepped up and volunteered or donated their services or wrote checks or, kind enough to put us on shows like this where we can, tell our story. So to me, that's what's most humbling about it. But living in Lancaster now for 20 years, a little over 20 years, it doesn't surprise me. That's the kind of community we live in, so it's really more of a testament to the generosity of the Lancaster community. That's really at the core of our success.
And John, not many people think about nonprofit entrepreneurship as a business, but you did, and you successfully accomplished it. How quickly or simply were you able to do that?
Well, first of all, you have to run nonprofits as businesses. Just like anything, if you want to survive, if you want to have your organization thrive so that you can do the good work that you want to do, you got to run them like a business, and in some basic fundamental principles. But the thing that's so exciting about today, living in today's world, right, is that if I tried to start Music for Everyone 30 years ago, right, I would have probably had to work through an existing arts organization, or what I call a big box arts organization. It might be like in Lancaster, like the Fulton or the Lancaster Opera or the Symphony, or those were organizations that have the heft and the mailing lists and the contacts and the donors and the resources that would allow someone that you needed in order to grow a new idea, a new passion, or a new organization. Today, man, with communication the way it is, and the internet the way it is, and you put up a website, you're in business. You're in business. So my point is that it's so exciting right now to be alive and to be and to think about community service and because if you have a passion, any of your listeners or watchers tonight, if you have a passion that you really believe about, really feel strongly about, the distance between that passion, right, and having like real community impact, the distance has never been closer, right? Or, if you have a passion or idea and you want to do something, you want to create something, and you want to do good in the community or whatever, the barriers between that passion, that idea, that spark, right, and real community impact, the barriers have never been lower. So my point is, you can do it. You can do it. The resources are there to do it.
So the barrier is lower, but there are steps. What are the steps when we want to put together the vision, the board, your team players, so to speak? What are those steps? Well, it's easy, but
yeah, right. Well, you have to
because it's a business.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. Board, your board is critical because you have to have a team to do these kind of things. And we started out, and again, I'd never done anything like this. I just making it up as we go. But you try to match up. your board members with the functions that you have to undertake. And we are a working board. I mean, for at least for the first 10 years or so, everyone, because it was all volunteer. No one got paid anything. And top to bottom. And so therefore you had to get people that were able to offer, like, someone to manage the mailing list, which is a big job, someone to do the finances, make sure all the dollars and cents are right, someone that, a lawyer, someone to try to set up on your nonprofit side. So you kind of have to think of, what your needs are. And even now we're still evolving. We have to evolve. In fact, we're going through a major rehaul and 360-degree view at our entire organization, with the focus of really on the board too, because we have to restructure to make sure our board is goes through, is set for the future, right? One of the things we've got to get much better at is we've got to become much more diverse as a board, and we're working through that right now, and we're trying to figure that out. And we've got to, you got to upload your bylaws and all those kind of things to make sure they're current, and that you're always trying to, in creating a board, you're trying to envision where you want to go in the future, the near future, the next 5 years or whatever. And then you got to say, what are those needs? What are those challenges? What are those issues? Okay. And then you say, okay, what are the pieces that I have to put in place to achieve those goals? And it's evolving all the time.
And you have to prepare with everyone your mission statement.
Yep.
And now we're thinking, okay, so when we're in business, because we're talking about entrepreneurship as a nonprofit, and treat it like a business, a 30-second elevator speech. This was all done 16 years ago when you did these steps.
Well, not all of it was done that first year. I mean, you evolve, you learn more about it. But yes, you start with your basic cause and purpose. The mission statement. This is it. But you also have to have your elevator speech. You got to have your 10-minute speech. But the notion is when you do something like this, there are a couple things you got to figure out, right? Number one is, is the need real? Right? Because a lot of times you might just do something you think it's there, but is it real? And then second, once you get in and get your fingers dirty and you start doing it, right? Then you got to find out, that's when you truly find out if you're on the right track and if the need is, once you get in there and start working on a day. So you have this notion, you do your research, you do your mission statement, and you come up with your narrative. Narrative is really important. And you think you have a cause, you think you're doing good stuff, but you don't really know until you get in there and actually do it. And but that's once again, and all these organizations, you evolve. One of the things that we're pretty good at is we're pretty flexible, we're nimble, and our mission has changed. It started out first, let's do a fundraiser, buy some instruments, right? We did that, and then we realized, after a couple of years, it's like you can provide a class for 30 kids, everyone a brand new instrument, but there's only one teacher. What's the point, right? So then we evolved to a point where it's like, okay, now we started raising money for creating another program where we've raised money for music mentors to go into schools, work alongside teachers, directly with kids, after school programs, summer camps. And then we started, that goes for a while. And then we started to realize, what? There's this economic development aspect about what we do, right? We didn't realize we were doing it because we were doing things like Keys for the City, putting the pianos around the city, Music Fridays, those kind of things.
Yes.
And then we realized, kind of made the connection. Hey, Lancaster is trying to build itself as an arts destination, arts community, and the economic activity that generates. It's like, we need to start thinking about that too, because we're doing that as well. So how do we refine that? Then it even evolved even further. I mean, 3 years ago now, we started, you read all the research about medicine, the medical community beginning to realize and use music as a healing tool, as an individual therapeutic and a public health tool. there's every day there's another piece of research that comes out talking about how music helps with Alzheimer's, managing pain, PTSD, all kinds of stuff, right? And so we evolved again because, you want to continue to look out and see what the issues are and how you might be able to, have a positive impact. And then you have a discussion as a board and say, this is what, I think is out there. How are we going to restructure and, to meet that emerging need? And so we announced an initiative called Music for Everyone's Well-Being, where we're trying to identify people in the community, organizations in the community, we're supporting them financially, that are doing good things, using music as a tool to heal, individual therapeutic or public health. We were kind of doing it anyway. We didn't realize we give grants to like Schreiber Pediatrics and, all kinds of health related organizations, but we kind of didn't really piece everything together. But the next thing you know, okay, yeah. So then we evolved again. And most recently, we're finally realized kind of like, with the all the social unrest and the George Floyd murder, and we started thinking about, well, how can we do something? How can we be a part of the solution to leverage our resources, somehow be a part of it? And we come to realize, what? Music and the arts, but particularly music, has been a part of every civil rights justice movement for history, right? And so we were like, okay, how can we leverage, that power? And so we've launched, we're getting ready to release the first record in a couple of weeks.
Is this the newest project that I'm going to ask you about?
Right. This is music. This is our Songs for Justice.
Songs for Justice.
And
newest project.
Right. It's going to be a series.
You heard it here first?
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, there's going to be a series of 45 vinyl records. And on side A is going to be a local artist who is going to bear witness. That's what musicians and artists do. They bear witness to what's going on in the world around them today. Writing an original song, recording an original song around this issue of justice and equality. Side B is going to be a famous civil rights or human rights speech, or maybe a Supreme Court decision, or a spoken word about that issue. And we're going to have local personalities read them. Pedro Rivera, for example, is reading the speech, a Thaddeus Stevens speech, of course, famous abolitionist, and it's all about educational access, free public education, which fits our mission. And each of these, and we're going to have a poetry, we're going to have a poet. We're also going to, on each one, we're identifying a community benefit organization that is doing good work in this area, right?
We're partnering with other organizations.
Partnering with, and we're going to give them, 100 records, and they can sell and do whatever they want to try to raise money for their programming. So we're trying to bring in other community benefits. That just builds synergies. But anyway, we're hoping at the end of it all, and we're working with some folks to try to build a curriculum around it. So at the end of it, maybe you have a series of 8 or 10, 45 records, and you open the package well, you open them up, you're listening to music, you're listening to a speech, you're reading the lyrics, you're having some historical context provided, and there's going to be a website as well that you can get more information. And hopefully at the end of it, they will be able to be used with schools or community groups as a curriculum, another way to teach around the issues of justice and equality. But it's a 2-year process. It's going to be a long, project. And you know what? We're going to make mistakes along the way because there are risks in addressing this type of content, because everything's so raw. But we're hoping that, and we've made a lot of mistakes already. And, but we're hoping that over the course of, we're going to release them periodically, 6 to 8 weeks or so. And over the course of time, each one's going to get better and better and better.
That is fabulous. Thank you for sharing that with our listeners tonight. You mentioned earlier some dollar figures, and can you share with us how much you were able to raise year one for anyone thinking, about starting a nonprofit? And then what are you able to raise today for the community and our children?
How about we put it this way? That first year, we were able to give back to the community about $10,000, $11,000, right? And that was for instruments. We're just shy of over $3 million of invested in instruments, instruction, scholarships. We provide scholarships to music education majors at Millersville University, who then go into the schools again and mentor the kids, right? So in scholarships, in underwriting our music mentors, in programs like Keys for the City. So it's the growth. I guess generally speaking, we now are able to give, for example, in between $80,000 and $100,000 every year for instruments. Right.
Congratulations.
We started at 10, So, but again, it's more about a testament to our community.
Yes.
Really, we are so humbled by their support, and we're just fortunate to live in. And the other thing is that I think, and this is something that I hope we don't forget, right? Is the more I'm involved in this, the more I realize, just really how powerful music is. It's the universal language. Everyone has music in them. Everyone has a heart that beats, right? And the other thing, musicians and artists I've found are incredibly community minded, and they're so generous with their time and talent. And we don't appreciate that. And we don't pay them enough, and we don't, support them enough. And but the best thing is, if I wasn't convinced of this before COVID, I'm 5 times convinced of it now. Because think about it. When everything shut down, the biggest issues we were facing, a lot of mental health issues, a lot of isolation, people felt unmoored. Who stepped up first? Really, who stepped up first? It was the musicians and artists.
Yes.
And engaging community in music activities like for, the community clang that we did with the city, to get people out there shaking their thing and thanking early on in the pandemic. We had to reinvent stuff. Like now we can't do music Fridays downtown. We put strap musicians on the back of trucks and send them around town, right? But my point is that it was the musicians and artists who have really stepped up. And I just hope that when we get to the other side of this, we don't forget that.
I agree.
We don't forget that because what music and the arts do for our community. And I worry about this a little bit with our community, is that we're, artists and community, they're having a harder and harder time, with gentrification of the city and things like that, finding space and finding living quarters. And but I just it's like you're a cook, right? I bet you're a fantastic cook.
Yeah.
Right? I bet you are. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. But it's like, you're cooking a gumbo, a nice thick gumbo. What's that take? That takes a lot of spices. You're not going to make a good gumbo with 2 spices. You're going to make a good gumbo with all kinds of spices, right? And so our community needs to embrace that, needs to support that, because and artists and musicians and poets and graphic designers and theater people, and they add so much spice to our lives. But not only that, it's not only like arts for art's sake and we appreciate it, inspires us, all that kind of stuff, but the real world concrete benefits of investment in music and the arts, right? Educational return on investment is enormous. Economic drive, it's an economic driver, right? It's a public health tool. It's an individual therapeutic tool. It's a tool to hopefully heal our divisions in our communities, right? So it's not just, this is great, I like to go to a show, and and music, it reveals our soul and inspires us. It's not just that. It's enormous, real, concrete, verifiable, measurable impacts beyond just the arts for art's sake. And I hope we don't forget that at post-COVID.
We cannot forget. I'm with you on that. I have one more question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You began painting in 2018.
I did.
Coupled with your experience as a musician
Right.
and your commitment to music education and advocacy,
Mm-hmm.
this led you to write, illustrate, and publish a children's book in 2019 titled Alphabone Orchestra, A Magically Musical Journey Through the Alphabet. You put a lot of thought into this because it is geared to kids from 0 to 100.
Right.
How can we use this as an educational tool for all?
Oh yeah, no. This has been. I started painting. I had wonderful teacher in Lawrence Spangler Jones, and so yeah, I started painting. 2.5, 3 years ago, I guess, and I just started getting this. I've always wanted to write a children's book, right? And I always figured music would be a good avenue to do it, but I didn't quite figure out somebody to have to illustrate it, but I got this idea of like sort of a crazy triangle-headed, really fanciful, brightly colored, outrageous kind of character, Dr. Dude B. Funky, who is a world famous musicologist, right?
Right.
But anyway, so I did an alphabet book. So I did over the course of probably 6 months, 52, uppercase alphabet, lowercase 26, and a question mark and an exclamation point as well, just for added measure, right? But and then did alliterative writing, rhyming. I should read. Can I read you one page?
Sure.
Okay, here you go. Here you go. I'll read you. What letter would you like me to read?
G.
G. Okay, so there it is, right? So G. Okay, hold on. I hope G's a good one. I'm hoping. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay. Oh, okay. Here you go. So we have the G-Bone group gathered their gaggle of green gongs, golden glockenspiels, and grody guitars with gusto.
Yay.
Right. And there's, the artwork, it's brightly colored that hopefully you'll, and then the other thing is we always include what I call a grace note. Grace note's like a little extra note. It's like a little extra dab of barbecue sauce, And but so the grace note for this happens to be in German. Glockenspiel means play the bells. So, and there's a lot of facts in there. It's also about things about facts that I want adults to know about music education. Like music education increases test scores, and so I consider and there's a glossary of terms in the back where if you don't know the names or instruments, you can look. So I consider it sort of like your child's first music lesson, but that also adults can learn from it as well. And it's been a wonderful journey, and I've had all kinds of fun with it.
And then, COVID probably put a little bit of a damper on sales. You can't be out there autographing books.
Honestly, that doesn't matter to me. I did it because I wanted to do it. I've always wanted to do it, And so I think in terms of getting back to the theme of your show, I think sometimes you got to live. You can't live life in fear, And if you have something you want to do and write a book or begin painting or whatever it possibly is, it really doesn't matter whether anybody else really likes it or not, or whether you sell and sell 1 million copies. Or the issue is you had a passion, you had an idea, you wanted something you want to do, and you did it. And you went and did it. And if it sells, great. If not, if it doesn't sell, that's okay, But the main thing is that you did it and you followed through and you executed it, and you never know what can happen. And the other thing I would say then, your last thing for get back to your show, is you can't. One of my little, you can't be content to be content. I was, what's next? And so you can't be content to be content because there's a big world out there and there's so much to learn and so many ways to grow. But you gotta live life fearlessly. Go for it. If that's a passion of yours, whatever it is, you can do it. Go and do it, and let the chips fall where they may.
Thank you for your excellent advice. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your story. An educator at heart. You can reach John at johngerdy.com or musicforeveryone.org. I'd like to leave you with this. Music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. Music is life. That is why our hearts have beats. We are all connected through a rhythm, our heartbeat. Join us next time as we aim to inspire, empower, and inform.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Life in the Next Act is a proud member of the Candy Factory Collective. You can find the show streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And you could subscribe to the audio version anywhere you get your podcasts.
Gail has experienced many acts over the years. Living a full life, she is a mother of 2 and grandmother of 3, and currently calls Lancaster, PA home. An entrepreneur at heart, she's owned several businesses, hosted a popular radio show, and has written for prominent publications highlighting nonprofits. While she holds her real estate license in Florida and PA, she believes her true calling is giving others a voice.
Learn more about Gail at gailshane.com. Life in the Next Act is produced by the Candy Factory Collective at the Candy Factory Co-working Campus in Lancaster, PA. Production support by Jason Mundock and Anna Tran. Administrative support by Ann Kirby, Ariana Henderson, and Krisha Martzell. Notes and links can be found on the show post at our website, candyfactorycollective.com. Candy Factory. Collective.